You know him. He knows more about cultural entertainment than all of us put together. He is one and only Michael Snyder.
Hey, Mr. Mo Kelly, we'll get to your disgruntled Disclosure Day coverage in a moment, but I got to say, that Friday Fabulous Florida segment brought up some unhappy memories. A couple years ago, my baby shark ate my chicken. It was horrifying.
What?
It was horrifying. Anyway,
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Happy Juneteenth, everyone. We're
Happy
celebrating
Juneteenth.
the official end of slavery from back in America's first dark ages. I don't know. The only slaves allowed should be slaves to the rhythm. Thank you, Grace Jones. But we do want to mark this solemn occasion, and we want to do it with high spirits and hopes for the future, because it's amazing how unpleasant things have gotten for so many people in America. Learn the lessons of history, everybody. So with Father's Day coming up, I did want to bring up the fact that fatherhood is a good thing. It's powerful. And I want to send respect to all who do their best in the role, the caring and the nurturing, the setting a good example. And also, I want to remind them all that Father's Day is a great day to take your kids out to the movies. And when we get to the reviews, the lead review, Toy Story 5, is one that might fit the bill. But let's get to your issues with the Spielberg film, Mo.
Very quickly, it is long, laborious. It's a movie with a pretense or an idea about how TV and the disclosure, how America and the world would react to it. It seemed it was better suited for 2006, not 2026. The characters were engaged in behavior that didn't make any sense. It had a villain that wasn't imposing and believable, and all of a sudden, the reason for being a villain just disappeared out of nowhere at the end of the movie, and he stopped being a villain, just let everything happen. I don't want to give away too many spoilers. Long story short, I thought it was a bad movie. It was a not well told story, and there were no moments of awe or wonder. It was not Close Encounters. It was not E.T. It was not War of the Worlds. It was not anything on that level in any way. It's a movie that was bad. It was made worse by the fact that it had Steven Spielberg's name on it, so you have a higher level of expectation. I judge Spielberg against Spielberg, and I'll never watch that movie again. There you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, here's a counterpoint. 90% of the critics in America. But I will say that I did not think that it was a great film, but I was carried along by it, and I was helped along by tremendous performances from Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor. I thought Eve Hewson was wonderful. Colin, Colin Firth, who played the villain, was a bit much. He was a bit of a scenery chewer. And to me, it was just a diverting entertainment. Did I like it as well as Spielberg's West Side Story? Absolutely not. Was it up to the other movies in his Alien quartet? And I include Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, another alien-oriented film. No, it wasn't. And that was not a great Indiana Jones film. But there were aspects of this that I really liked. The chase scenes were exciting. He's an excellent director. The script is where this thing faltered a little bit. I think I'm not a big fan of David Koepp's, all of his work. He's really hit and miss for me. And I like this a little more than you did for certain, but I do understand the flaws that were inherent in it. That said, it's entertaining. I was entertained. I was not offended. And apparently, Mo, it sounds like your hackles are up about this film.
It's not often, but it happens.
Anyway, let's talk about movies that are opening this weekend, because that's why we're here. And also maybe we'll take a nod to a TV show or two. Just a reminder before I review Toy Story 5. You've got a friend in me, people, one who will spend hours in the dark watching movies and judging them to provide you with a consumer's guide so you can make smart choices about how to spend your valuable screen time. Apparently, as far as Mo's concerned, I erred on Disclosure Day. Let's see if I got it right on Toy Story 5. And speaking of screen time, This is a sensible and emotionally satisfying capper. I hope. I hope this is the last one, because I don't know how they can keep trotting down these worn out toys time and time again. But anyway, it has been a pretty marvelous animated movie series from Pixar and Disney, following the adventures of a group of anthropomorphic toys from one owner to another. And Toy Story 5 takes a different tact. It shifts the focus of the film from the cowboy Woody doll, who is voiced by Tom Hanks, and the astronaut Buzz Lightyear doll, voiced by Tim Allen, to cowgirl Jessie, who is voiced by Joan Cusack. And this is a thoughtful and very relevant look at how online media and the lure of those digital devices is undermining human connection and playtime for children. So, sweet, shy Bonnie is the current owner of most of the toys in the franchise, and she's having a difficult time making friends with the kids in their neighborhood, all of whom would rather stare at their portable touchstone tablets than play with honest-to-gosh toys. So when Bonnie is gifted with the digital pad and gets caught up in her peer group's social media relationships, the toys, led in Woody's absence, as seen in Toy Story 4, by Jessie, she's now the sheriff, if you will, in charge of the toys. They're boxed up and donated to Goodwill or the Salvation Army or some other charitable thrift store operation. Meanwhile, Jessie and her trusty horse Bullseye are on a mission to secure a new friend for Bonnie. One of the interesting aspects of Toy Story 5 is that Jessie has always thought she had a special relationship with Bonnie and her previous owners, but being passed along and forgotten by those owners is a fear of hers, and it fuels a lot of the emotional impact of the movie, and it's totally enhanced by Joan Cusack's marvelous vocal performance as the sensitive cowgirl doll, as usual with Pixar, regardless of the actual quality of the project. And some have been less than their best. I don't want to name names right now, but The Good Dinosaur. Toy Story 5 looks gorgeous, and it's better than Toy Story 2 or 4. If it seems like every odd-numbered installment is superior to the even-numbered ones, maybe this would be, like I said, a smart endpoint, especially considering how it takes on the old school toys' biggest 21st century nemesis, those omnipresent screens. For those of you who care, Taylor Swift provides a nice end credits song. I don't know, I think You've Got a Pop Music Diva in Me. I don't remember the title. But anyway, there is an honor, I think, to voicing a toy in the series, and people have stepped up in addition to Hanks and Tim Allen and Joan Cusack. Some of the returning voices are on board here, and like Tony Hale as Forky, Wallace Shawn as the T-Rex toy. Some new voices are Conan O'Brien, who plays like a electric device for toilet training that Jessie encounters. I know it sounds a little absurd, but it works pretty well. And you also get as a pivotal character here, the wonderful Greta Lee as the tablet Lily pad, like as in iPad. And she's kind of a villain, but it turns out different than you might expect. And I thought it was really well done. And I know it seems like it should be a little on the tired side after all of these iterations. But, kudos to Pixar mainstay Andrew Stanton, the guy who directed Finding Nemo and Wall-E and Finding Dory. He directed and co-wrote the script with McKenna Harris. And having co-written all the previous Toy Story movies, Stanton knows these characters to their core, and it shows. Toy Story 5 is in theaters. Again, you want to do something on Father's Day with the family, this is a good choice.
All right. The Death of Robin Hood.
Yeah, let's get to The Death of Robin Hood. This is not the golden-hued, extremely moving account of Robin Hood's sunset years that was Robin and Marion, which starred Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn. And it was kind of a bit of a tearjerker, I think. Anyway, The Death of Robin Hood is a dark and kind of dolorous look at the final days of the legendary and herein rather cruel and violent thief, given life here in the film by the expectedly deep performance from a grizzled Hugh Jackman, aged a bit much Here he is old Robin, seriously wounded and grappling with the legacy of his crimes. And there is a fine co-starring turn by Jodie Comer. You may remember her from Killing Eve. She was the villainess. Here she's a nun nursing Robin Hood back to some semblance of health and offering potential salvation. It's written and directed by Michael Sarnowski, who made two incredibly cool films, Pig, which is one of my favorite Nick Cage films of recent vintage, and A Quiet Place, Day One, which is the prequel to the John Krasinski, Emily Blunt horror films about the alien invasion. Both of these were more engaging, I think, than The Death of Robin Hood. But that's not to say The Death of Robin Hood is bad. It's just brutal for long stretches. And then it kind of almost fades away at its climax after getting a little murky and murkier and murkier, to be honest with you. Again, always worthwhile watching Hugh Jackman do his thing. And in this case, he is quite good and quite believable as this bastard of a thief. But, it's kind of a downer. It is called The Death of Robin Hood, okay? It's kind of a downer. It is in theaters across this great nation of ours. Shall we move on?
Yeah, I just want to say I love Nicolas Cage. I loved him in Spider Noir, but I did not like Pig at all. Just want to say
Oh,
that.
God. Pig is one of my favorite. I think we are not on the same wavelength sometimes,
Not today.
Mo.
Not
I
today.
thought Pig is one of my favorite Nick Cage films. Okay, let's change the subject. Frameline, the LGBTQ plus festival, which is celebrating its 50th year as a San Francisco institution, and it is the oldest, longest running LGBTQ oriented festival probably in the world, has some really terrific films as part of its schedule this year. And a few of them, the next three I'm mentioning, are all part of the festival and are also opening theatrically this weekend in various markets. Let's kick off this little segment with Girls Like Girls, which was written and directed by the actress, singer, and author Haley Kiyoko, who you may know from Insidious Chapter 3, Gem and the Hologram. She was a regular on TV's CSI Cyber. And this is kind of cool. She was Velma in a couple of Scooby-Doo TV movies, but she's also an out lesbian. And she wrote a book entitled Girls Like Girls, and she has adapted this as the co-screenwriter and as the director. It's an intimate look at a lesbian teenage girl's tentative coming out. As like sapphic teen romances go, this is tender and endearing, and it's helped along by the two young actresses playing the central couple, Maya DaCosta Coley, who is kind of trying to find herself in a new environment, moving in with her father after the passing of her mom. And it's a new town, new kids. She's having trouble assimilating, and she meets this adorable a dancer, championship dancer, who's also kind of a queen bee, and she's also apparently bisexual. And they start a little relationship of sorts. The girl who gets Coley involved in this kind of sort of secretive relationship is played by Myra Malloy. They're both wonderful. And Zach Braff plays Coley's dad. That Zach Braff. Anyway, I thought this was really beautifully done. And again, tender and endearing. Girls Like Girls is in select theaters. And if you're in the Bay Area, it is a part of this year's Frameline 50 celebration. Okay, now I want to talk about Maddie's Secret, because I really got a kick out of this film. Now, imagine a Lifetime or Hallmark melodrama about a well-meaning but self-destructive woman in the burgeoning world of food influencers, if it was written and directed by John Waters, of Hairspray and Crybaby fame. And imagine that this character, who, by the way, has an eating disorder, is played by a man, screenwriter and director John Early, and he plays Maddie, the lead character, in distinctly normal woman drag without any kind of flamboyance. And the whole thing is played so broadly and earnestly by its cast that it's clearly a satire, and it's funny. as one would expect from Early, who's kind of a very witty, out gay comedian. But it's not silly at all. It's really kind of heartfelt. And in fact, Maddie, the character who finds herself caught up in the fame of, I guess we'd call it internet fame because of her recipes and her charm on camera. She's a sympathetic character. But this food problem of hers, the eating disorder, does end up bringing her down to an extent, and she has to check into a rehab situation. This co-stars Early's frequent partner in comedy, Kate Berland, as Maddie's best friend who starts to resent her success. Kristen Johnson from Third Rock from the Sun plays Maddie's less than loving mother, Beverly. Vanessa Bayer from SNL is a little too cheerfully optimistic as a patient at the clinic where Maddie's getting treatment. And that clinic, by the way, is very girl interrupted. There's a lot of parody kind of encoded in Maddie's Secret, and all of it kind of works. And Chris Bauer, a terrific character actor, plays Maddie's physician. Maddie's Secret is in select theaters. Likening it to a Hallmark or Lifetime movie makes me think that this would play really well at home. But, again, I like to support adventurous independent cinema, and this is kind of a hoot, and it also, again, is very well-meaning in its storyline and very heartfelt in its portrayals. Maddie's Secret is in select theaters. One more that's also a part of the Frameline Festival and opening in movie theaters across the country, Leviticus. Leviticus is a queer coming-of-age horror movie. Yeah, another horror movie. This one comes from Australia. And it has ideas, textures, compassion, and heart. Is it creepy? Is it scary? Yes. And some of its horror comes from how humans treat each other and from the evils of bigotry and homophobia. The use of a name Leviticus, that's the title of the book in the Bible, as the movie's title, is no accident, since Leviticus is kind of the Bible's foremost book of rules, if I'm not mistaken. You're a Christian, Mo.
Yep.
Isn't that a characterization of Leviticus?
No, that is correct. It's like you're not supposed to mix textiles in your clothing. You're not supposed to eat shellfish. It lets you know all the things which have been condemned prior to the coming of Christ.
Right. So it's a book of rules, and one of the biblical no-nos is interpreted to be about the sin of homosexuality. And in the movie, Naim and Ryan, two gay teenage boys in an Australian suburb, are targeted by monsters, human and otherwise, for their purported sins. So Joe Bird and Stacey Clausen as Naim and Ryan are quite realistic and sympathetic in their performances, which helps give verity to the horror elements that lurk and then attack in Leviticus. So the God Squatters in town, including Naim's mom, who was played by Mia Wasikowska, who is familiar to American audiences, they all want to cast out the supposed demons making the boys act out, if you will. And meanwhile, there is an actual supernatural entity that is plaguing the locals, and its trick is to appear in the form of someone you love. And some of the chills herein come from not knowing if someone is real or is the paranormal entity. I wasn't crazy about the way Leviticus concluded, but getting there was a really tense trip. And screenwriter-director Adrian Chiarella's message about the power of love, even when the odds are stacked against you, is unmistakable here and laudable. Leviticus is in select theaters. I just want to wrap up quickly with a foreign film that I was intrigued by. It's called Unidentified, and it's the work of the Saudi-born director and screenwriter Haifa Al-Mansour. She did the Mary Shelley movie, which featured Elle Fanning in the lead role as the author, and she's directed episodes of TV's Bosch Legacy and Fear of the Walking Dead. But the thing about Unidentified is that it is set in Riyadh, and it's a Saudi film. It's with an Arabic soundtrack and, subtitles in English. And interestingly enough, it's a detective movie, and it's about a young woman who moves to Riyadh to start, I guess, working in the wake of a divorce, an ugly divorce. And it's kind of dull, and she's obsessed with true crime podcasts. So she's kind of like Courtney in that regard. But I will say that she uses that obsession to fuel her decision to throw caution to the wind, and despite it not being her job, to solve the murder of a young woman. And she's kind of upset about it, and she wants to get into the middle of things and find out what's going on. And of course, the police chief doesn't like this because she's overstepping the bounds expected of a woman, even in the modern Saudi Arabia, where women are allowed to drive. Woo! Well done. Anyway, this movie was co-written with Al Mansour's husband, who's the American film producer Brad Neiman, and it clearly wanted to address the ongoing sexism in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and it does so in an effective manner, although the crime-solving aspects of the story get a bit on the wonky side. Nonetheless, really good performance by Mila Al-Zarani, who plays the character of Noel Al-Safan, the would-be detective. And it's fascinating to see that life on display, even if, again, the murder and crime aspects and the detective aspects, not so on point. That said, the movie is currently available to be seen in select theaters. It's called Unidentified. And that's it on the movie front, Mo.
Well, you gave us a lot to consider this Father's Day weekend. Speaking of Father's Day, you started with Toy Story 5, which you said was a sensible capper, assuming that this is the last movie in the series. It focuses on Jessie the cowgirl and updates the ideas of toys versus digital device distractions of present day. You said it was a good choice for Father's Day. I personally thought Toy Story should have ended with episode 3. I thought that would have been a fitting conclusion. I cried my eyes out at Toy Story 3.
Dude, that is such a banger. It really broke my heart, and I was a little disappointed by Toy Story 4, but I do think they have kind of righted the ship to an extent. They did so by focusing on Jessie instead of focusing on Buzz or Woody, and that's to the credit of Stanton and the geniuses at Pixar.
There's the death of Robin Hood. It's a dark look at Robin Hood. It stars Hugh Jackman, and I think he's eminently watchable in just about everything. It tells of an aging Robin Hood who is dealing with his legacy and also the end of his life. You said Michael was brutal for long stretches and fades near the end. Ultimately, I think I'm going to watch it, but I'm going to go in not necessarily with very high expectations. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's very fair. It's just not as good as Disclosure Day, Mo. Anyway.
Point taken. And we also know today is Juneteenth, but it's also Pride Month. And there are 3 selections you gave us in accordance with Pride Month that we could check out. There's Girls Like Girls, which is an intimate look at teenage girls coming out, a coming of age story, I would say, for the 21st century, and also details the complexity of LGBTQ relationships in this 21st century. You termed it both beautiful and tender.
That is fair. And Haley Kiyoko is a very talented young woman. She's a good singer. She's had some cool records out. Again, Girls Like Girls was based on a book she wrote. And this is a kind of an interesting directorial effort on her part. So we'll see where her career goes from here.
The one I really want to see is the next one, Maddie's Secret. Maddie, a well-meaning but destructive food influencer who also has an eating disorder. It's played in drag. It tells a modern age story, I would say, regarding the intersection of social media fame and its destructive impact on relationships. And I think all of us can immediately identify with that on some level, how social media and influencers have changed the way that we interact with one another.
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting to see how jealous her bestie gets at her fame and the sense that she's leaving, her fellow dishwasher. She starts her career as a dishwasher at this food influencer company, and where they make, I guess they make content for the web and whatever. But the best friend feels put upon, and a lot of the core of this thing is, the dichotomy of being so in love with food and preparation and recipes and having an eating disorder. It's definitely handled by John Early. I can tell you that.
There's Leviticus, which is a queer coming of age horror movie Michael, you said it was both creepy and scary, where two young lovers are attacked by monsters, both human and supernatural, for their supposed sins, of course, referring to the book of Leviticus. You thought it wasn't great, but it was tense and a meaningful story.
No, I like this. I thought this was a really very well done. It just, again, it has a strange ending. The third act problems are always an issue, Mo.
Mm-hmm. And we should have a debate sometime, because I'm a real big third act person. A poor third act can ruin a movie for me, and for other people, if they don't stick the landing, it doesn't ruin the movie for them. For me, it does. That's just me.
That's valid.
And you close with Unidentified, which is set in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, about a young divorcee who moves to Riyadh and becomes obsessed with true crime, and also becomes a detective of sorts and attempts to solve the murder of a young woman. And obviously, if you know anything about Saudi Arabia, a woman trying to do anything, including singing without a hijab, is truly an issue. But it's obviously the overall message about sexism in Saudi Arabia, but did offer some good performances. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so. And I was caught up in the crime and her attempts to root out the murderer, but some of the things just seemed to be too facile in terms of how she came to conclusions. But, I'm picking nits. It's interesting. It's not a great film, but I thought it was worthwhile. And again, it's a window into the kind of life that a woman leads in a repressive government dominated country like Saudi Arabia. I think it's probably a problem in all the Gulf states for women.
Mm-hmm. That's another one I'll be checking out. And Michael Snyder, even though you happen to like the movie Pig, I will not hold it against you. I will not hold Disclosure Day against you. Not everyone can be right all the time, and those are just two of the times in which you're not always right.
Nicely done. Hey, I'm going to give you a quick recommendation, because I think you should check it out. If you like crime and true crime stuff, and I know, of course, we mentioned earlier that Courtney likes that sort of thing. Legends at Netflix is an absolute worthwhile, highly recommended true crime series that's basically about the incursion in the late 80s and early 90s of drugs into England under Maggie Thatcher. And the people who are part of the customs office have to figure out a way to curtail it. So they start their own little initiative that's basically going to root out the heroin traffickers and stop the crime at its core, and hopefully alleviate this awful plague of drug use and drug addiction in England at the time. And it is created by Neil Forsyth, and it stars Tom Burke, who is so good in the detective show Strike. He was in The Musketeers. He was in Soderbergh's Black Bag. And Steve Coogan, that's right, Alan Partridge himself, co-star of The Trip, the great comedic actor. Tom Burke plays a customs officer who's brought in basically to infiltrate one of these drug gangs. And Coogan plays the administrator who tries to pull together this unit that's going to help curtail the incursion of drugs in England. It's really well done, and it has great 80s and early 90s needle drops. It's called Legends. It's on Netflix. It's worth your time.
I love it. Michael Snyder, maybe next week we'll be on the same page with all of your selections and offerings. I'm going to check out a lot of these this weekend, and I'll report back sometime soon.
Sounds good. And in the meantime, have a great weekend, everybody. We will be back with you on the Mark Thompson Show next Friday. Go Giants. They're in Miami. Hope springs eternal, Mo.
What? Wait. Did you say go Giants?
I did. Well, remember, this is one of those places where we disagree.
Yes. And I'm quite sure Kim McAllister is a Giants fan as well. I understand it, Bay Area folks, but it's Dodgers for life here. Dodgers for life. Two-time.
I promise you. Wait. Mo, when I'm down in LA, I still love the Giants. I'm sorry.
Where's your rainbow, Michael?
There we go. you next time.
Bye-bye, Michael Snyder. That's a fine way to end the week.